I'm Sharon Tong. Welcome to In Parliament. Before Parliament continued its debate on the supply bill today, a question was asked by MP Christopher D'Souza about whether the Prime Minister is planning to call a by-election to fill the vacant Hougang seat. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says he intends to call a by-election for the vacated Hougang seat, but he added that he has not decided when he will do so. Mr. Lee said an application has been filed in court concerning this, so the matter is now sub judice, which means it is under the consideration of the court. And while MPs enjoy parliamentary immunity in the House, Mr. Lee said Singapore's parliamentary convention was that they do not talk about matters which are sub judice. Citing Article 49 of the Constitution, Mr. Lee says it states that when a seat becomes vacant, it shall be filled by an election. In a single-member constituency, a seat becomes vacant when the MP vacates his seat, for example, when he is expelled from his political party, resigns his seat, or he dies. The timing of the by-election called to fill the seat is at the discretion of the Prime Minister. Following Mr. Lee's speech, 3 follow-up questions were asked by opposition MPs about the time frame of the by-election.
I have not yet decided on the timing of the by-election. In deciding on the timing, I will take into account all relevant factors, including the well-being of Hougang residents, issues on the national agenda, as well as the international backdrop, which affects our prosperity and security.
I'm pleased to note that the Prime Minister has said that he has decided to call a by-election. That settles all the hypothetical and speculation outside the House. And he said that he would consider all factors before deciding when a by-election will be called. I would like to ask whether or not, after considering all the factors, will he be able to indicate a period in which by-election will be called?
Certainly, Mr. Speaker, I'll do so as soon as I have finished considering all the factors.
Does Prime Minister not agree that with the Hougang SMC being vacant, there is actually an underrepresentation of the Hougang voters in this House?
Whether there's an underrepresentation of the interests of the voters of Hougang as a result of this, I do not know that. If that is an issue, I would have thought it is something which the Workers' Party would have considered before deciding to expel Mr. Yaw Shin Leong. Because the Constitution is clear, the rules are clear, how by-elections are called or not called is also completely clear. We debated this in the House. So if we are in this situation today, it is because the Workers' Party has caused this situation to happen, knowing the consequences.
Moving next to the debate, the Ministry of Community Development, Youth and Sports has emphasised its role in building an inclusive society for Singapore. Acting Minister Chan Chun Sing says his ministry is guided in its mission by 3 words: hope, heart and home. Hope for those who have fallen on hard times, determined to overcome their circumstances, and those who can no longer help themselves. Heart for its efforts to mobilise every individual, corporate, community and public sector agency for a whole-of-society approach to helping those in need, and home for its task of building a home where everyone feels they belong.
I grew up in a 3-room HDB flat in Circuit Road with 2 grandparents, an aunt, my mother and my sister, 6 of us. My late grandmother had a thyroid disorder and couldn't walk well. My mother held 2 jobs to support our family: a machine operator stamping aluminium plates by day and an office cleaner by night. We were taught since young that while we may not be rich, we should cherish what we had, work hard to be useful to society, and when possible, help others who were less fortunate than us. We also learned that if we work hard, there is hope for a better life, not just for ourselves, but for our families. And whether in success or failure, whether in wealth or in poverty, we should also have a heart to help others, just as some have helped us. We owe our success to society, kind neighbours who watch over us, unknown donors who contributed to our education, and government assistance in various ways. With this support, we built a home, not just a HDB flat, but a sense of being part of this community and a responsibility towards our fellow citizens.
The ministry has two key ways of achieving its goal. The first is by strengthening the social safety net. The acting minister announced a slew of enhancements to the Community Care Endowment Fund, or ComCare, that will extend the coverage to more income groups. The changes will benefit 15,300 more beneficiaries and cost $21 million each year. For families requiring short to medium-term help, the household income cap will be raised from $1,500 to $1,700. The per capita income criterion will also be raised to $550 so larger families can benefit.
ComCare is a key component of our social safety net. It provides support for Singaporeans who find it hard to cope despite the support which they have received in education, healthcare, housing, workfare and other social transfers. First, we will extend ComCare coverage to more Singaporeans who need short to medium-term help. Some may have lost their jobs or suffer a temporary reduction in income. Others are unable to work temporarily because of health or family circumstances. This will enable more to receive short-term assistance to tide over difficult times and have hope to get back onto their feet again. Some of these families may have reasonable household incomes, but in reality struggle to make ends meet because they have many dependents to look after.
Enhancements are also being made to preschool and student care subsidies under ComCare to extend help for families with young children. From July, the income cap for student care will be raised to $3,500. There'll also be a startup grant of $400 to defray families' one-time cost of enrolling their children in student care, and this will help with expenses such as books, insurance and registration fees. To help larger families, a per capita income criterion for childcare, kindergarten and student care subsidies will be introduced. Larger families with monthly household income of more than $3,500 will also be eligible for the subsidies if their per capita income is $875 or less.
Many young couples have expressed reservations about having more children, and they are not confident that they will be able to provide good care with both parents and increasingly grandparents active in the workforce. Hence, I would like to request that the government consider regulating and possibly standardizing the fees at childcare centres. At the same time, would the ministry consider providing more generous increases in childcare subsidies to make the fees more affordable for Singaporeans? Hopefully, this will encourage Singaporeans to have more babies.
Different operators or centres offer different childcare programs to meet the unique needs and demands of the families they serve. For this reason, they have also different cost structures. It will not be practical for MCYs to impose a standardized fee structure. Instead, we support parents through various subsidies to defray the cost of childcare and kindergarten. MCYs will continue to conduct regular reviews on our preschool schemes to improve accessibility and affordability.
As for those who need long-term support, Mr. Chan said this group is helped through the Public Assistance Scheme. He said there are currently about 3,000 beneficiaries of the scheme, most of which are elderly or disabled persons with little income and family support. From April, the household monthly income criterion will be raised from $1,000 to $1,500 so that more elderly whose children are themselves in need will be eligible for public assistance. Needy elderly with non-CPF income sources below the PA rate will also be eligible for PA. These can include pensioners and those receiving small payouts under the Lease Buyback Scheme or Elder Shield. Mr. Chan said under PA, they can receive an additional cash grant over and above their pension or payouts.
This benefited 85-year-old Madam Wah and her 67-year-old daughter. They had struggled to survive on her daughter's minimum sum paid out of about $300 per month previously. They are now coping better with PA cash assistance and medical fee coverage. The community also assists them with meals delivery and food rations. We will help more families like Madam Marwa.
Now, the government will spend $400 million over the next 5 years on services and programs for the elderly, a slew of community facilities that will be convenient and family-friendly. For those who need daycare, Minister of State for Community Development, Youth and Sports, Halimah Yacob, said the Integrated Day Facility, or IDF, will be set up. It will act as a one-stop centre located in the heart of communities where services for the elderly will be coordinated and integrated. The first two IDFs will be built in Tampines and the Bishan Topayo area. And to better support vulnerable elderly in the community, the ministry also plans to increase the number of senior activity centres from the current 41 to 58 by 2016. Madam Halimah also added that 3 more senior service centres co-located with studio apartments will be set up this year. These centres help to bring elder-friendly services to their doorstep as they have social space and services such as alert alarm systems provided free of charge to the residents.
If we ask any of our elderly persons today for their preference, most will say that they want to be with or close to their families. They want to live in the community, but they do not want to be a burden to their children, their relatives, or their neighbours and their friends. Our elderly have contributed to the success of Singapore, and we are grateful. We understand how they feel and their heartfelt desires as they age and become frail.
As for the elderly who prefer to remain at home or are unable to leave their homes, home-based care will be revamped. The ministry has piloted a new seniors group homes project. The elderly will live together and support each other in a cluster of rental flats with the support of care staff. In addition, the government will be revamping its home care services. The service, called the Ensuite Social Home-Based Care, aims to provide a more coordinated and client-centric home-based care to the elderly. The central idea is to have a single care worker who is trained and equipped to perform a range of services for the elderly person, including personal hygiene, housekeeping and laundry services.
Today, most of our home care services are service-centric. An elderly person has to integrate the services himself. Sometimes, he may even have different care staff visiting his home, providing services such as housekeeping, laundry and personal hygiene. The elderly can feel like a service item on a work schedule. We can do much better.
But while the government strives to improve its models of care to the elderly, Madam Halimah says they must also be mindful about the cost. So the means-tested subsidies will be raised to more households will be eligible. When the subsidy changes take effect from the third quarter of this year, around 2/3 of Singaporean households with elderly will be eligible. And those who care for the elderly will also not be forgotten. Families can turn to the Centre for Enabled Living, or CEL, to get help on how to care for their elderly family members. And besides subsidising training courses under the Caregivers Training Grant, the ministry will also be administering a new additional $120 per month foreign domestic worker grant. This will cover families with a per capita income of up to $2,200 who look after elderly with high care needs.
This will improve the quality of care for our elderly. Caregivers can also gain more confidence that they are taking proper care of their elderly family members, thus reducing their anxiety and stress. CEL has been working with VWOs and other training providers to develop more of such training courses. They will be in English, Mandarin, Malay or Tamil to cater to various caregivers. Together, they expect to train up to 10,000 caregivers this year.
And to facilitate active ageing, a wellness program is being rolled out to all constituencies. By 2015, the government hopes to reach 1 out of 2 aged above 50. Senior Minister of State Heng Chee Hao says that adds up to a staggering 500,000 people.
We are currently piloting this at Whampoa, and we will be launching a new pilot in Marine Parade later this month. As we learn from these pilots, we will apply what we have learned to the other wellness sites.
Turning to the low income next, the government is looking into ways to reach needy Singaporeans who do not know how or where to seek help. Minister of State Halimah Yacob says the ministry will update publicity materials to make them easier to understand. Starters kits will also be distributed to grassroots leaders so that they can better advise needy residents on the assistance available. MCYS is also looking into ways to enhance the experience and outcomes of clients who seek help at community development councils.
We will customize the amount and type of assistance we provide based on each client's needs and circumstances. we are also prepared to exercise flexibility for families. Being closer to the ground and with a clearer understanding of a needy family situation, CDCs can and do exercise flexibility for cases when necessary, based on the guidelines provided by my ministry.
Turning next to the disabled, a new and improved enabling master plan is being put in place where $1 billion will be spent over the next 5 years on programs and services for the disabled. Senior Parliamentary Secretary Sam Tan says this is 20% more than what was spent in the previous 5 years.
We should be encouraged by the progress that we have made in the last 5 years. But yet, sir, we know that our journey has only started, and persons with disabilities and their families still face many challenges today. There is still much more for us to do. In drawing up the master plan, the committee has also taken a life course approach to ensure that persons with disabilities will receive the care and the attention needed at each life stage.
Mr. Tan said in drawing up the enabling master plan, the committee took a life course approach to ensure that persons with disabilities will receive care, the attention needed at every life stage. In the preschool years, he said early intervention is critical for children with disabilities, so they now receive help through the Development Support Program. Learning support intervention will be provided by a group of trained learning support educators, and therapy intervention will be provided if necessary. And subsidies for persons with disabilities will also increase. Those with severe disabilities will receive an additional $120 foreign domestic worker grant. Means-tested subsidies for all MCYS-funded community-based and residential services will also be raised. A low-income family can receive up to 80% of the normal cost of a service, and GST for these services will be absorbed. An existing grant, the Assistive Technology Fund, or ATF, to purchase such devices will be doubled to $20,000, and students in special education schools will qualify as well.
Jinju has been suffering from muscular dystrophy from young. This causes her muscles to weaken over time and has greatly affected her mobility. Owing to her condition, Jinju often finds it hard to manually copy notes and write her school assignments. Yet, this has not deterred a young, an eager student from Sembawang Secondary School. Through the ATF, Jinju has acquired both a wheelchair to help her get around and also a laptop to take notes in class and also to do research for their project.
Mr. Tan also added that it's important for parents and caregivers to plan early for the long-term care of their children at the Special Needs Trust Company, or SNTC. To make fees more affordable, the government will absorb the operating costs of SNTC.
One such parent who now has that peace of mind is Joanne. Joanne has a 9-year-old daughter with multiple disabilities. Rather unfortunate. But before signing on to the SNTC, Joanne was searching for a savings scheme that allows her to prepare for her daughter's financial and caregiving needs in the future. Private trusts were far too expensive and too costly for her. SNTC, or Special Needs Trust Company, was thus a practical and affordable solution. Working closely with the SNTC case manager, Joanne developed a care plan for her daughter and also projected the amount needed to set aside to provide for her daughters. Joanne is now happy in knowing that SNTC will help her administer her savings according to her wishes when she is no longer around.
Another group the government will be paying special attention to, those who need more than just financial help. The acting minister highlighted that the needs of the low income with a gambling problem can be met with counselling and protection.
There is a need to protect these Singaporeans and their families from the potential harm of hard gambling. We are looking into targeted measures to protect the financially vulnerable and introducing circuit breakers for local, frequent casino gamblers. One part of this will be extending third-party casino exclusions to more groups receiving ComCare assistance. For other financially vulnerable groups, we are now studying with relevant agencies whether to extend exclusion coverage for them. and we'll finalize the details within the next few months.
But providing help to the groups like the elderly and low income would be nothing without the people who devote their time to do it. The acting minister said his ministry will look into developing the social service sector. A comprehensive social service sector manpower development plan is being implemented over the next few years. This aims to increase the supply of key social service professionals. For a start, the ministry will fund voluntary welfare organizations with an additional $10 million a year. A large part of this will go towards the salaries of social service professionals, the bulk of which are employed by VWOs. Social workers can expect their salaries to be increased by up to 15%. In relation to this, Mr. Chan also commented on his ministry's latest recruitment campaign for social workers. He said he has received feedback from the public that the advertisements seem to label persons with disabilities as being hopeless.
This is most unfortunate. I would like to reassure everyone that it is never our intention to belittle persons with disability or, for that matter, any of the persons whom social workers help. What the ad seeks to portray are the complex emotions felt when the real person featured in the ad first suffered the loss of his leg, a sense of hopelessness, and to convey the role a professional social worker plays in helping him rebuild his confidence and rise above the situation. It is not easy to express the complex emotions which some of our communities experience and the impact that the social workers have and that they can make. We aspire to improve with each and every campaign.
The productivity of the social service sector should also be raised, and Mr. Chan said plans are in place to better utilize information and communication technology, or ICT. The ministry will put in place a 5-year social service sector ICT master plan to raise the ICT capability of 400 VWOs. Yesterday, MP Penny Low had stressed the benefits of investing in ICT.
So we say that the social sector is high-touch, low-tech, and so allows it to lag far behind the private and even public sector in the understanding and deployment of ICT. But this idea is flawed. It should be high-touch and high-tech.
I agree with Ms. Low that ICT can be a key enabler for productivity gains and service improvements. Take the example of Tai Hua Kwan Telehome Care. This is a pilot initiative that links the elderly in the community and their care managers through the use of ICT. Each elderly participating in the project receives a video conferencing device which has been modified to be elderly friendly for them to connect to their case managers via Skype. With this arrangement, case managers can continue to follow up on their clients who require close monitoring after regular home visit. It also enables case managers to better communicate with their clients through audio-video interaction while reducing traveling time and transportation costs for the case managers to perform follow-up visits. Overall, there's an improvement in efficiency as well as effectiveness.
And to raise the quality of care, a new master social worker scheme will be introduced at family service centres this year. The scheme will see experienced social workers appointed to mentor their colleagues and raise practice standards overall. Minister of State Halimah Yacob said this is to help family service centres cope with increasingly complex cases. CDCs can also expect more from the government. They will get $5 million more a year to increase their manpower resources. Now, Parliament has approved the budget estimates for financial year 2012. Wrapping up the debate, Leader of the House, Dr. Ng Hen, said the main theme of an inclusive society featured large in the budget and Committee of Supply proceedings, but added that inclusiveness first means building a robust and seaworthy vessel with strong engines of growth. He also pointed out some firsts in this year's proceedings. Apart from being the first after last year's general election, it was also the largest parliament since independence, with 98 MPs, resulting in 450 cuts being filed compared to 411 last year. This meant that Parliament had to sit longer this year, the same number of days but more hours. He also credited the new Speaker of Parliament, Michael Palmer, for keeping the House awake during what Dr. Ng called less enthralling moments.
In one of those rare moments, I imagined you as a poster boy in an advertisement, holding up an energy drink related to a specific chromatic and bovine persuasion. If you want a clue, it's in a great green-blue spectrum. The drink marketed for its effects for inducing wakefulness. I'm contrite, and I promise that I will dispel these images if they ever come into mind again. Whatever your secret, this House is grateful, and thank you for so ably presiding over sessions, and we look forward to your continued presence in that chair. Thank you.
I would like to thank the leader of the House for his kind words, and I can assure him that I will not be posing with any energy drink, whether green, red or blue.
Two other bills were also passed in Parliament. The Money Lenders Bill aimed at improving protection for borrowers, especially the lower income group. Changes include mandating the use of the effective interest rate instead of the nominal interest rate. The rules will take effect from June. Parliament also passed the Lemon Law to strengthen consumer protection in Singapore. Under it, consumers can report a defective item within 6 months of delivery. The burden of proof lays on the retailer, that is, to prove if the defect did not exist at the time of delivery. Otherwise, the consumer can request for repair or a replacement, and if not possible, ask for a reduction in price or even a refund. The Lemon Law applies to all goods, including consumables and perishables, but not services. It will come into effect in September to allow industry time to adjust. And Parliament has been adjourned to a date to be fixed. Good night.